Good morning, everyone. This is Ray Kuhl. I'm CEO of PBSI Technology Solutions. I'd like to welcome you and thank you for joining today's webcast. We're going to briefly discuss how to prepare for Windows 7 end of life, which is coming only 8 months from now, a little less than that, January of next year. So what does it mean? What are our options? What should we do about it? So our short agenda today, what are the choices? We'll review each choice. Why might I consider, even if it weren't a requirement, why might I consider anyway going to Windows 10? Benefits, downsides, licensing options, which has to do with choices. And then we're also going to separately talk about setup recommendations, because what we see is that most of us, I don't want to overcharacterize, have seen Windows 10 now for some time as a fine product that works beautifully. But many still remember the early days when the reputation was, oh, it's confusing, oh, it's different, or why did they change it so much? So I'm going to review some setup recommendations that can help understand how to make new users, if you're transferring users from Windows 7 to 10, how can we make it go smoothly with some consistent setup? So thanks for joining. Many of you, thank you very much, are longtime PBSI friends and clients. I recognize your names and I want to say hello. Many of you, this is your first exposure to PBSI. So we provide technology services for clients in healthcare, business, nonprofit, professional firms in Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana, hundreds of clients with long-term relationships. So one of the main things that impacts quality of service is experience. And I'm very blessed as CEO of PBSI to know that a large percentage of our staff have been with us for many years, and we're a learning organization. We're all the time learning new things, and but I know that experience helps clients. So our topic today is all about education, not about selling services, which is what we try to focus on each webcast. So what are the facts with end of life? So Microsoft ended mainstream support for Windows 7 in 2015, unpublished but or widely recognized. But they have amped up the communications and have made it clear that January next year is the end of support. So what does that mean? No more security patches, no more bug fixes, no more support available from Microsoft if you have a Windows 7 PC. There just simply won't be any availability for end users or for IT companies like PBSI to go to Microsoft for help. So can I continue to use Windows 7 afterwards? Yes, there's nothing that will stop it from working. So what does it mean to be open to hackers and new vulnerabilities? I can only anticipate that hackers are eagerly waiting next January. So today you have hackers and you have defenders. Next January, your primary defender retires. You'll still have PBSI and other IT companies who provide support, and we will certainly continue to support anyone with Windows 7 PCs, no issue there. However, the security patches are the biggest issues to understand, so I'm just going to spend a short moment talking about that. Currently, Microsoft continues to issue security patches either weekly or monthly for Windows 7. And you have to ask the question, why are they still issuing security patches after so long? And the answer is, new attacks reveal new vulnerabilities all the time. I read just this week that there are 300,000 new variants of malware that are presented each month. And with new variants, new security flaws become revealed. It's when they stop issuing security patches, then newly revealed vulnerabilities will simply go unaddressed. And that's dangerous for all of us. The attackers continue to get smarter and smarter and more aggressive. And so personally, I would not risk in an organization at PBSI, certainly we will not, we already don't, but we will not and would not have any Windows 7 PCs in the organization, not because they don't work well, but because it's not worth the security risk. For those of you in healthcare, there's an added compliance risk. You will not pass a HIPAA audit if you have a Windows 7 PC after next January. So the simple fact is HIPAA requires updated security patches for all operating systems on all PCs, and unupdated security patches as was true with Windows XP in the past and has been true with Windows Server 2003 and other products. Once support is gone, it's an automatic fail of a HIPAA audit and subject to fines, and simply not worth the risk. That's an opinion. So another comment, just as a business owner where we at PBSI also invest in upgrading of technology, and I've realized that replacing an asset isn't an avoidance, it is a delay, and it's only a matter of time, so why not take care of it sooner? So that's simply a recommendation. Each organization will make their own choices. So I'm going to make some comments about Windows 10. So many of you already have Windows 10 on many of the PCs in your organization. Some have delayed entirely going to Windows 10, and some of that because of early on reputation or early on experience. So is Windows 10 a fantastic step forward or a productivity killer? Improved security, yes. This is the single essential, most important priority that Microsoft put into Windows 10, and I've seen recurring communication about this. They did fix some, when Windows 7 was replaced with Windows 10, it was a significant architecture change. And one of the very most important at a technical level is the boot process in Windows 7 can be impeded by software that can get under the surface and execute their own code before Windows is booted up. That is not possible with Windows 10. And this relates to all kinds of attempted hacks of a PC where on a Windows 7 PC, you may not be able to eradicate, or it takes just a huge amount of effort to eradicate a piece of malware because it puts self-perpetuating code that executes first. So without overburdening, yes, Windows 10 is clearly more secure. Google recently issued a recommendation that all clients upgrade Windows 7 to 10, Google. So that's a competitor of Microsoft. Why did they do it? Because they see the same things that the security industry sees. I read an article recently that says Windows, of all of the malware detected last year, 70-some% was on Windows 7 PCs, and only a small percentage, 8 or 12%, was on Windows 10 PCs. So malware is more successfully able to execute. So is it more stable? That's what Microsoft claims. Windows 7 is a stable product. Windows 10 is a stable product. Gone are the days, they could return in a moment, but gone are the days when we need to reboot our PC all the time and experience daily reliability issues. Windows 10 works fine. Does it boot faster? Yes, it does. Is it faster in operations as long as you have enough RAM? Yes, it is. Are the graphics cleaner? Matter of opinion. This is something where you get used to it, and neither good nor bad as far as we're concerned. But it is much more secure, and it is somewhat faster. So is it a productivity killer? Does it take hours to set it up? No, this can be avoided, and that's one of the reasons I'm going to go through a few Windows 10 setup suggestions today. And each of you, by attendance, you'll receive automatically an attachment that we'll send, or a link that we'll send, which will be secure, that will give you the setup recommendations that PBSI makes. And this is, by the way, something that all of our technicians use when we set up a new PC. We set them up in this standard way so that Windows 10 appears clean and avoids some of the issues that used to be involved in taking weeks to learn. This can be avoided. You can go from Windows 7 to Windows 10 and have it be out of the box, no problem, no confusion. So the truth is, Windows 10 is fast and efficient. It just requires some intentional setup. So what are our choices and what are the costs? Continue to use Windows 7? Yes, we can do that. PCs will be more vulnerable, but this is an individual decision. It will continue to work. The two main options for most of us: purchase new PCs or upgrade existing PCs. What's the cost? So the PC that we recommend from Dell is $799. It comes with an SSD hard drive and 8 gigabytes of RAM and an i5 processor. It's a small footprint. We sell PCs at Dell website prices. It doesn't matter whether you buy PCs from PBSI or somewhere else. We make a little bit of margin when you purchase them from us, but the fact is the setup process is simplified and speeded when these are purchased from us. We sell at Dell website prices. The point is, wherever you're going to buy a PC, you're going to pay about $700 to $950. And the reason for mentioning SSD hard drive is it's a really significant item in making a PC work faster. I would never buy a PC today or a laptop without an SSD hard drive. So this idea that the setup time will be an hour to an hour and a half. It depends on how many PCs are being done at the same time, but the average transferring stuff from the old PC to the new PC, doing the setup, you're going to have some labor function. The labor to upgrade an existing PC is much more variable. It can take longer than 2.5 hours if complications are encountered, which really is something that can't be predicted completely until you get into the process. So the average cost of upgrading a PC, I'm saying $300 to $400, which includes the upgrade of Windows, $199, and likely replacing RAM. You don't want to mix old and new RAM, so putting 8 gigabytes of RAM on a PC is 40 or 50 bucks. Add some labor, and you're going to be, call it $400 to $500 different per PC, depend on whether you replace or upgrade. So for most PCs, replacement is the better choice. But there is nothing wrong if you purchased a couple of years ago a PC and you chose intentionally to have Windows 7 on it, then by all means, it's likely just perfectly fine to upgrade it. Don't waste the money on a new PC. Okay, there's a new option in town. So new, within the last year, possibly a little longer, Microsoft has done something that is very, very confusing name-wise, but they've released a monthly licensing option for Windows called Microsoft 365. So many of you are familiar with Office 365. Office 365 is Word, Excel, PowerPoint, desktop applications, Outlook. Microsoft 365 includes those things and also includes Windows. So this is an option that really exists primarily for those who are using Office 365 already on Windows 7 PC. So if you choose to upgrade, you could spend $199 or add $5.50 a month to your subscription. So if you're a business premium subscriber, $5.50 a month addition to that, you now have both Office and Windows, Microsoft 365. So it's a choice. Microsoft 365 is $20 a month. I'll give a bit more detail about licensing and licensing choices here in a minute. So for most of us, the main choices are purchase a new PC or upgrade our existing. So licensing information for Office 365 and Microsoft 365. You're going to hear me talk about a really important option called Advanced Threat Protection. So this webcast is not all about security and advanced threat protection, but to me it's a very significant item and it bears consideration in this process. We're recommending to all clients that when you purchase Microsoft Office, you don't do so by purchasing the one-time $250 Office 2019. Instead, you purchase Office 365. The main reason, in my opinion, to go to Office 365, it's a good product, we use it at PBSI, is this $2 a month feature called Advanced Threat Protection. I'm going to demonstrate that in a moment, but in all of my analysis, I'm including $2 a month for Advanced Threat Protection. So if this is confusing so far, I'll help to clarify. If you're going to, on an existing PC or a new PC, have Windows 10 there, your choices are, you can add, in order to get this security feature, Advanced Threat Protection, you have two choices: Exchange Online at $4 a month plus Advanced Threat Protection, that's $6 a month. If you include Microsoft Office 365, Business Premium gives you 5 copies of the desktop app, $8.50 a month. So I'm saying that to upgrade your email to include a license for Office, you get the latest and greatest all the time, it's updated quite frequently, and you have this Advanced Threat Protection, you're going to spend $14.50 a month. The alternative with Microsoft 365, essentially what they're doing is they're taking the same numbers from above with the $2 a month and adding some additional security features, which I wouldn't say are completely critical. I'm simply providing information. Ultimately, though, what you're paying for Windows is a low fee if you value the security components. So it's reasonable to consider Microsoft 365. But what I would like to do here is clarify, why am I talking about this advanced threat protection? And I'm going to do a short demonstration, and then we're going to move on from here. The advanced threat protection is the reason, when it was released something over a year ago, PBSI moved from an in-house Exchange server where we had no monthly license fees, replaced all of that with Office 365 for all of our employees, and added this $2 a month ATP. We did it because of the ATP. And what it does is, for $2 a month, it protects, I want to say prevents, but I just hate that word. Nobody can really guarantee it prevents, but it should prevent and appears to completely prevent damage that comes from uneducated or users who are fooled into making clicks on an email. So if you open an attachment or you click on a link, what happens is that we've put our email in the cloud, and this $2 a month ATP, when we click on our email, it sends the action to a site called SafeLinks. It's a detonation chamber where whatever's going to happen with that click or that attachment will be opened up and exploded and fully executed there. So rather than wait and base its action on known viruses, it actually completes the job. And if it comes back with a virus or a problem, then instead of delivering the virus or the ransomware to the end user, instead you get a message very simply that says, good thing you have SafeLinks, because that would have been a problem. So I'm going to do a short demonstration now, show you exactly how this works. So in my email, I keep some information here. I'm going to go to my security folder, and I'm going to demonstrate. Here's an email that our security administrator sent to me some time ago, and he said, this is a bad link here, try this, you can prove what happens with Office 365. So if I clicked on this link in my email, which I just did, attempted to do, let me open up the email and click on the link. And so it goes out to this site SafeLinks in advance, and instead of delivering back whatever virus would have happened, it simply gives me a message, website is classified as malicious, shouldn't have clicked that, no option to move forward, just close this page. Actually, with Office 365, when you set this up, you do have an option to give the end user the ability to, I want to go forward anyway. Well, that's just a terrible idea, and we don't permit that at PBSI, and we don't set it up that way for any client. So what happened there is my link would have caused a virus. Instead, I'm secure. So another example of this, I'm going to look at an attachment. So recently, a client called me and said, I'm having a hard time opening up an email from a former employee. Can you help me? And I said, wait a minute. Forward that email to me, because it sounded like that he shouldn't want to do this. And sure enough, I opened up the attachment because I have ATP. Now this client also has it. And this is what happened. So it simply said that attachment was bad, back to safety, you're all finished. So that's very simple. But on the other hand, I just want to say we have the unfortunate reality as a security company that it's not weekly, but it's multiple times a month, yet another client gets ransomware. All the time we spend training, all the attempts we have in putting security tools in clients' hands, I find no fault in somebody who makes a click. The fact is, some of these emails are really difficult to evaluate, and the bad guys are very aggressive. And as much training time as we put in, when that happens and a client gets ransomware, it's a panic, it's a disruption, where their files encrypted, how many hours are going to be involved in undoing this. And anyone, I assure you, would at that moment gladly have been spending $2 a month to have that user simply get a message that says, oops, that was a mistake, instead of now, do we have to report a breach? Do we have to contact our customer? What's exactly happened with this attack, which is really hard to discern. So the message is it's very, very effective and inexpensive insurance. So I'm very high on this advanced threat protection. The goal of this webcast is not to sell Microsoft products or even ATP, but it's something that certainly influences me in making recommendations to clients. So I'm going to move on now. Hopefully it's clear that you have choices. Just keep doing what you're doing with Windows 7, replace the PCs, or upgrade the PCs. I'm going to move now to talk briefly about what are some setup choices that when you go to Windows 10 can avoid confusion and avoid the need to retrain staff. And it has to do with some visual setup things, some file access setup things, other things in the Windows 10 settings app, some security settings, browser setup. There are things where these just don't come by default, and I'm only going to mention things that don't come by default with Windows 10. So this is a document that each of you will receive a copy of, and it's organized into sections. What are the things that we can do in setting up Windows 10 to make it secure, make it clean, make it fast? On my PC, I uninstall all the games. We don't necessarily do that. We won't do that for you, but anything that can take cycle time on a PC is going to take away from as fast as it could be. And then what makes it consistent and supportable versus I'd like it to look like my own PC. Now, users do have the choice of their own color schemes and themes that display in the background, no problem, no issue, as long as they come from the right source. So let me just move through a couple of these. So the start menu is really the biggest single thing where confusion can come. So the start menu in Windows 10, this lower left-hand corner, and in my start menu, I have two sets of icons, and I've organized them business apps and either security or productivity apps. When you first install Windows 10, you're presented with a menu where some of the things in the menu show a different size, and it's confusing. And to me, one of the first things I do is make sure and set them all the same. This is a personal preference thing, but for organizational simplicity. And notice this is not the way I have my PC normally set. I set this way. You see that it keeps scrolling through, and you can find yourself with Windows 10 having a bunch of these icons where they're just scrolling through and making changes and they're displaying things and what the heck's going on. That is all about an option. I'm right-clicking on that icon and choosing the option to turn Live Tile off. Live Tile is something that permits behind-the-scenes updates to take place, and it not only takes cycle times, but it ends up being a display visual set of confusion with all kinds of things moving on this menu. So if all the live tiles are turned off and everything is set in the same size, you can make this more simple. Now, for most people, no one needs this many applications. So if I wanted to remove some of these things from my start menu and reorganize this, then I can do that, and it makes the whole group smaller. So setting the menu, how does that happen? With Windows 10, on the left-hand side in alphabetic order are all the apps that exist out there, and if I want to move a particular application to my start menu, I can do that by right-clicking on it and say add to my start menu. In this case, it's already on my start menu, so I can unpin it or I can pin it. And when I pin it, it gives me a chance to place it in a certain location so you can organize this. So organizing the start menu is really basic, but it doesn't come that way, and it can be really confusing to a new user. So the other thing that I customize is the taskbar. I like to have the apps that I typically use in my taskbar. So if these things weren't open, I have my snipping app included in my taskbar so I can copy images. I have my antivirus. I have access to PBSI support. I have certain things that I use all the time. If my Outlook weren't open, I'll close my Outlook now. It shows up here on my taskbar. Instead of going to the menu, I can open it up right from there. So that's simply right-click on the application, say add to taskbar, and you can choose the things that are there as defaults or as one-click operations. A couple of things. I'm not going to go into detail on more of these because I'll just mention but not demonstrate that setting up File Explorer so that it works efficiently. File Explorer is something I use all day long, and in the document that we're sending, it shows how to set links like this. You can go to the common areas where you typically see documents and make them available in one click. So setting up document searches so that they're efficient, it's easy to do. And if you use in Windows 7 the feature called Favorites, that has been changed. In Windows 10, it's called Quick Access. Once you know that, you can move your favorites into quick access. So what used to be favorites now is quick access, but it works the same way. The things I want to access commonly, I make my selections from there. So quick access setup is included in the instructions. Personalization, you can make personalization setups. I want to make one comment, and that is about screensavers and themes. It's important to set up a screensaver with a timeout setting so that your screen blanks out after a certain amount of time, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever your choice is. But it's also important that you set your power settings to sleep equals never. This is a confusion for a lot of folks. And the reason for this is you protect your PC by having your screen blank out. But if you have your PC turn off, it both impacts startup time and productivity. So the idea is if you're a PBSI client and if you're some other IT company is managing your IT, we have all the updates set to run at night. The tests, the updates, the things that might be time consuming, and by having your PCs set to sleep instead of leave them on, then that process has to run when you turn it on in the morning. So either in the morning when you turn it on or on Monday morning when you turn it on, the PC is slow for a while. It's just unnecessary. It's a productivity killer, and it can interrupt updates that are important. So the fact is these settings are straightforward, and some of them are important. So I want to mention that. And then the idea of themes and screensavers. Microsoft, I'll go to the Settings app, and I want to change my personalization. If I want a theme, I can choose a theme. There are a couple that I've downloaded. Here's the thing, download these from Microsoft all day long. Microsoft has an ability here. You can get more themes. You can go to Microsoft Store, download whatever you use for your background. Just don't go and get it from someplace else. Background, screensavers, and themes are among the very most used attack settings. Go to a website that purports Christian themes, beautiful music, great pictures. If you were a bad guy, where would you hide your malware content? Would you hide it under a skeleton, or would you hide it under something that might be attractive to more people that you want to attack? So the point is, get these things from Microsoft. They have great options. They're all free. And the same thing is true, themes and screensavers. So you can set up your preferences so your screen looks like what you want to. Just stay within Microsoft's family, or be very careful if you choose to go outside of that. So there's only one other thing I'm going to demonstrate or mention in detail here, and that is privacy settings. So in the Settings app, when you install a PC, the privacy settings come by default. A couple of these settings right up top, these are turned on by default. Let apps use your advertising idea to make ads more interesting to you. Let websites provide locally relevant content. Your data is, by your choice, being accumulated and accessed and traded by vendors, and this default is on. Turn them off. That's a recommendation. So some things that you just don't know are there unless somebody helps. The idea of this entire document that says, how do you set your PC up for maximum efficiency? We've created that for you to help. And if you buy a PC from PBSI, know that we apply those settings for every client. So what are your choices? Do it yourself, hire a professional. We're happy to help clients upgrade. We can do this efficiently. We have all kinds of experience. We can avoid frustration and productivity loss. Perfectly fine. We're happy to help upgrade your PCs. We can do it for you and make it work well, or do it yourself. If you do, in advance, there is a compatibility checker we'd recommend running on that PC. We always do this so that you have old apps. It's not 100% reliable, but it's useful. This downloads an app that runs on your PC and checks to see if you have any apps that are not compatible with Windows 10. So you'd want to know that in advance before you waste time trying to do something. Then we have a recommendation to check, make sure you know how to back up your PC if you do it yourself, because you just don't want to do an upgrade and have a risk. And then there are tips, and depending on what operating system you're coming from, there are available resources. So if you do it yourself, just ask us. We're happy to provide those resources to you, because the goal of this webinar is to help you learn what to do, not to necessarily use PBSI to do it. So what should we do? Main message, the reason we're doing these webcasts well in advance, plan ahead. If there were a generic recommendation, it would be, if you have 4 gigabytes of more on a PC, consider upgrading it, because probably that PC was purchased recently enough that it has the horsepower to run Windows 10 successfully. We recommend 8 gigabytes of RAM on a Windows 10 PC, but it works quite well with 4. If you have a PC with 2 gigabytes of RAM, I would recommend replacing it. It simply means that that PC is old enough that you don't want to put new wine into that old wineskin. You're spending at least half the amount to upgrade that you will to replace, and it's simply not worth it. It's more complicated than that, but that's a general way to help. If you have more than a few PCs, consider phasing them in. Do them all at once or don't, but it's a budgeting issue and it's a productivity and planning issue. So as of a couple of months ago, PBSI had 780 some PCs running Windows 7 among our clients. So we've been trying to get in touch with each client and identify what PCs you have and how many you have, and just make you aware of what your choices are. So how can we help? We sell PCs at Dell website prices, or we're happy to upgrade your existing PCs or those that you purchase yourself. And we also provide some other security services we do for many of you on this call. So let us know. We're finished with content. I want to thank you for your attendance. Hope it's been valuable for you.